Hey guys, hope y'all are doing well. Today, I want to talk about my currently rerolled Gemling Wyvern character. Now, I rerolled this from the Wolf character because the vision that I had for my Wolf character just wasn't going to be coming to fruition, I guess. So I rerolled over to Wyvern, which was actually one of my original plans for what I wanted to do for this league. I wanted to originally either do Pathfinder Wyvern or Gemling Wyvern because I think that both of them have some very good synergies with Wyvern. And I think that in terms of total synergy, Gemling might actually have a better synergy than Pathfinder, which I know kind of was serendipity that I rolled Tactician and now re-rolled over to Gemling. But now, the reason why I rolled over to Gemling Wyvern and why I think Gemling Wyvern is really good is for a couple of reasons, and most of them actually have to do with the Ascendancy. Most people think that the Gemling Ascendancy is very underpowered, and for the most part, it kind of is. But the Gemling Ascendancy actually gives some very good things for the Wyvern playstyle, and especially the Flame Breath playstyle. The first one being this right here, Gem Studded. So if you have the majority of green skill support gems, it makes it so that you have 40% less movement speed penalty from skills while moving. Much like the Pathfinder one, except instead of 40, it's 50 on the Pathfinder. A little bit worse, but there are other parts that kind of make up for this little tiny, I guess, disadvantage versus the Pathfinder. That's the first one, right? Because when you are using your Flame Breath, you are flying through the air, so having that reduce the amount of movement speed penalty that you have is very good. As you can see, most of my support gems are Dex, so that's where I'm getting that benefit from. The second benefit that you get from this is going to be Thaumaturgical Dynamism. So Thaumaturgical Dynamism is a thing that allows you to generate charges. As you can see on the top left, and people were asking me about this on my last video too, how they were asking like, how am I generating those charges just passively? And that is through Thaumaturgical Dynamism. When you have this active, you passively generate a power charge, frenzy charge, or endurance charge every 5 seconds. Now, the type of charge that you get is determined by the attribute requirements of the skills that you have socketed in your sockets. So basically, what it says right here, the higher total strength requirement in your socketed skills, the more likely it'll be endurance charge. Higher total dex will be frenzy, higher total intelligence will be power. Now, as we know, Druid is a strength int class. So as you can see, a lot of the Druid skills, like right here, it is a strength int requirement. And that means that you'll be mostly generating power charges and endurance charges. Well, Wyvern uses a lot of power charges. So ideally, we want to be maximizing the amount of power charges that we're getting. So in order to do that, we use int skills. So for example, right now I have Sacrifice, which again, helps us generate power charges, right? When we go into a boss fight specifically, sometimes we might not have the power charges depending on the boss. Maybe it's like a King of the Mist, right? You walk in there, there's no time for you to generate charges. So you need to be able to generate the charges immediately. That's why we have Sacrifice on an offhand swap, just so that for those boss fights, we're able to generate power charges. So we have int skill right here. We also have Profane Ritual that'll help us there as well. Another int skill. Elemental Weakness, another int skill. That way we're just stacking the amount of int skills so that you can see that we're, for the most part, generating power charges mostly. Every now and then it falls off, but for the most part, you are generating power charges, and for the most part, you are very much keeping up with the power charges as you're mapping, so you don't have to use something like Devour, right? You don't have to use Devour that often. You don't have to use Profane Ritual that often, right? Well, probably wouldn't be using this while mapping, but either way, it makes it so that you're pretty much never using Devour. Every now and then it falls off, but for the most part, it does not fall off. And I'm sure that if we build in potentially some skill duration into our tree, if we really wanted to, we could make it pretty much so that it basically never falls off. The other thing that we have here is going to be the charge regulation. Now, I am trying to go crit. So eventually, right now, I'm not spec towards crit. I'm still like just into tier 15s, so I'm not spec'd into crit yet. But eventually, when I'm spec'd into crit, I want to run charge regulation. That way, we can take advantage of our extra charges from endurance charges. Every now and then, we're going to frenzy charge as well. But the reason why I have it turned off is because I'm just not sure I can keep up the power charges with charge regulation. without having to rely a little bit on Devour. But it's still very, very good, very, very consistent. And eventually, I think putting on charge regulation will be completely fine. Like right now, we're still kind of keeping up with the power charges as we're going, right? But every now and then, again, it just increases the frequency of which that happens. But that is thaumaturgical dynamism. And there's more advantages. There's more advantages than you think of, surprisingly, right? The other thing is, of course, quality of skills. Most wyverns still kind of rely on using rend, which we're not able to increase the quality of unless we are playing Gemling. So we can get extra quality on that on top of giving our flame breath more quality, which means that we have additional time for how long we're not consuming rage when we're flying. So all that just adds to Gemling being great. But on top of that, we have implanted gems. So since we are using Flame Breath as a skill that I would like to eventually mostly, I guess, rely on Flame Breath, because of that, we want our Flame Breath to do as much damage as possible, right? But the problem is Flame Breath is an attack skill, but it's not a melee skill, it's not a projectile skill, and it is not a spell either. So that means we are not able to upgrade our levels for our Flame Breath outside of our weapon. Now, we all know level scaling is one of the best ways to increase your damage for your skills. So, because of that, we get to make up for some of it with our implanted gems right here. We can either go strength or we can go int or dex, actually not dex, sorry, int or strength, and make that a +2 for there. So there are a lot of reasons why Gemling is actually very good for the Wyvern playstyle, and I think it might be one of the best, maybe next to Oracle, for that playstyle. So yeah, that's why we went Gemling Wyvern. Right now, I'm clearing through tier 15's maps, still dying a good bit just because like our survivability isn't the best right now. We haven't really invested too much into our equipment. Eventually, I'm going to swap over to Constricting Command. So that is going to happen. I actually do have the money for Constricting Command right now. I currently have, I think, 9 divs. Yeah, 9 divs. So I do have the money for Constricting Command, but I'm not sure if I want to swap over yet because I might want to use the 9 divs I have to exponentially grow my wealth, basically. So we'll see about that. But eventually I will be swapping over to Constricting Command and the tree will look completely different. Right now it's, not crit based. I have made a mobalytics guide with all of the information for the tree. Unfortunately, it's not updated for anything else other than the tree itself. I apologize, guys, but eventually I will update this probably tomorrow, I guess. So maybe by the time you're watching this, it'll already be up to date. But I have the early endgame, which is what I am on right now. I have the crit swap for when we swap over to crit eventually. And then I have the Constricting Command setup as well, which is also a crit setup, but you're just using Constricting Command as well. So that is kind of what I have right now for anybody who wants to look into the future of what this build is going to look like. This is the swap. I'm still kind of considering and debating whether or not I want to take, what is it called? Is it this one? Yeah, Primal Hunger, because being an attack-based build, you do benefit from rage, giving you a lot of damage. But if we're trying to maximize the amount of time that we're flying in the air as a wyvern, having that extra rage is nice. And being able to get some of that rage regenerated is also nice because we're not an oracle, we're not a shaman, so we're not going to passively generate rage. I do have some interesting tech though in this that I found here. So right here, Blood of Rage grants you 8 rage whenever you use a life flask. So let's say you're going into a boss fight and you want to extend the amount of time that you want to, you want to be able to fly in the air with your flame breath. Well, instead of having to hit the boss, you can actually just chug a couple of life pots and hopefully, if you're strong enough, be able to kill the boss within that time period of when you're that you have bought yourself with rage through chugging those life flasks. So yeah, just a little bit of interesting tech there. I don't know if it's gonna ultimately pan out to how I want it to be, but just something for you guys to try if you are at that point where you are kind of in this end game point with the Constricting Command, swapping to crit and everything. So yeah, That is gonna be my update for day 2, day 3, I guess. It really is kind of like day 1.5 for my Wyvern. Um, so really day 1. So as this build progresses, I will let you guys know how it plays and how it continues. I'm still again on the fence about like the flame breath, how much I want to be in the air, and how much I want to invest in this. So we'll have to see how that goes. But yeah, if you guys want to follow along on this build, check out my stream, twitch.tv/misoxshiru. I stream there every single night. So hopefully I see you guys there. But if not, hopefully I'll see you all in the next video. All right, guys. Peace.